All right, guys, let's get started. So you've already been split into your groups. Remember, if you've got a 1 on the front of your page, we've already done the names and everything. There's your group, group 2, group 3, 4, 5, 6. You guys already know what your groups are. So everybody, turn past lesson 1 all the way to where it says Reconstruction Cast of Characters. It's got a picture of Abraham Lincoln on it. It's got a picture of Abraham Lincoln. So let's go through this together just so we know what we're doing. It says on the following pages you will find a cast of Reconstruction characters. Are these real characters or real people?
Real people.
They are real people. These are people who actually existed, right?
Yep. Yes.
So it says we will use these for the reading assignments covered in our Reconstruction newsletter, which will come after this lesson. But before we can do anything about that, we need background information, right?
Yes.
All right, this is our background information. It says, now that you've been provided a character and you know who you are. If you're group 1, who is your character?
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. All right, group 2, you're a character, right? Radical Republicans. Radical Republicans, group 3, Johnsonians, group 4, freedmen, meaning you're the former slaves. Group 5, those damn Yankees, the northern citizens. And group 6, the White League, the southern citizens, right? So, let's see what we got to do now. Again, turn back to that page. It says lesson 2, right? It says your task is to read your character profile. You are going to do that on your own. You don't need your friends to help you read, right? You're going to read your character profile. Remember, if you come across those terms that you don't understand, right, you can go back to that glossary page. Right, the glossary page that we had that has all the bills and the important people and terms. If you come across a word that you don't understand, we have the tablets that have the translator and all the different functions on it. We've got dictionaries here. So you're going to read through your character profile, and then we're going to break off into our groups, and your group is going to come up with 4 interview questions. Those questions are going to be questions that you want people to ask you, right? So if I'm a supporter of Lincoln, I want people to ask me these questions because you want to hit on your important things, right? You don't want them to say, what was Abraham Lincoln's favorite food? Is that an important question?
No.
No. But what was Abraham Lincoln's policy towards Southerners after the Civil War? Is that an important question?
Yes.
Yeah. What were the details of his Reconstruction plan? That's an important question, right? Things like that. So I'm going to give you about 5 or 10 minutes just to read your character profile. So if you're group 1, go on and start reading Lincoln. Read your character profile. If you have questions, I am here, right? I'm here. But if you have, if you're confused over a term, a word, or something like that, I want you to kind of struggle through it yourself and see if you can figure it out, either using context clues, right, or word tree, or some other strategy that we've learned, right? So go on and get started. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to clean up your messes. Yes, absolutely. You can write on these, you can annotate them, you can highlight them, whatever you guys need to do to make it work for you. And remember, if you need a highlighter, they're up there in the little orange bucket by the projector. I'm actually running low. Let me get some more.
Can you write on this?
Yes, you can absolutely write on this. This is yours to write on. I encourage you to write on it. I sure can.
I like these guys.
Oh, the Radical Republicans? Good, since you are one of them. Remember, Republicans back then were different than Republicans today. switched ideas. We'll talk about that later. Anybody else need a highlighter while I'm up here? How many of you guys still need a couple minutes? Good. All right, so now that you're done reading, raise your hand for group one. All right, group one, I'd like for you to come over here where Bisharo is. I am making you move, right? This is just a quick way for us to transition, right? Group two. Group two, raise your hand.
Go all the way for you. I'm already here.
I would like for group two to move over here where Alex is. Come on, let's move. Come on, quick, quick. Group two, Alex, hold up your hand so they know to come to you. All right, group three, hold up your hand. Group three, I would like for you to go over to where May is. Come see, guys.
I shaved my mouth.
Get this, come see.
Oh.
All right, group four, raise your hand. Group four, raise your hand. I'd like for group four to go over where Maheshwari is. Group four, go to Maheshwari. Group 5, raise your hand. Group 5. I would like for Group 5 to come over here to Manisha. And Group 6. Group 6. I would like for Group 6. Hold on, I only see one person for Group 6. There we go, there's the hands. Group 6, go over to where Haley is. Alright, so now, here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to take about 15, just listen. I would like for you to take about 10 to 15 minutes to come up with 4 interview questions. This is where you are going to talk back and forth about what it would be important for people to know about your character, right? You need to know you need those people to know what's important about your character. So somebody, raise your hand and tell me one thing it might be important for them to know. Which group are you guys with? Here? All right, here, move over here. There's 4 desks. There's 4.
Sit in Mary's. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, so somebody, raise your hand and tell me one thing it might be important for, let's say, listen up, ladies. Raise your hand and tell me one thing it might be important for, let's say, Mary, which group are you? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Group 3, the Johnsonians.
The Johnsonians. What would be one thing it would be important for somebody to know about the Johnsonians?
Johnson was against.
He was against Southerners just in general?
No, Confederates that had served in the war. He was very lenient towards them.
Okay, so he has lenient Reconstruction policy. So maybe you could ask a question saying, or you would want somebody to ask you a question of like, what are the details of Johnson's Reconstruction plan, right? If I'm a former slave, one of the questions I might want somebody to ask me is, what would you like to see happen during Reconstruction? Things like that, right? So go on, take about 10, 15 minutes, do those questions, we'll get started on the next part. Remember, you're coming up with 4 questions. If you have questions for me, raise your hand. Well, you're all going to have the same interview questions, right? That's why you're coming up as a group. So, 4 interview questions. Have you asked your group? Ask your group. I'll help you guys, but make sure you clear it all with your group first. Huh? Yeah, because you're coming up with them as a group. Coming up with them as a group.
You can or like who decided
When you started thinking about Reconstruction, you recently said,
We're supposed to be asking as a question.
when he started thinking about
So we're supposed to be like a question asking him.
well,
And that was good.
yeah, Lincoln's plan or the plan of the
That's not how this works, Aaliyah. I'm glad you said that, though. That is absolutely not how this works. We're not just writing these questions down and not doing all this thing, right? Well, so you're group 1, right? So if you were a supporter of Abraham Lincoln, what questions do you want people to ask you about Abraham Lincoln and his Reconstruction plan? Is it important to know when you start thinking about it? Because we know it's going to happen regardless.
But he was the one who started.
So if Lincoln had not been killed, do you think the Reconstruction would have been more successful? Well, you don't know if it was successful or not, right? Or yet, right? Right, because right now you're just supporters. I mean, it's good that you know that Lincoln was assassinated, but we don't want to move to that point yet. We basically want to know what people think about his plan, right?
He was not against slavery. He just wanted a solution for everyone. Not
Okay, so you're telling me a fact.
Yep.
How do you want that to translate into a question?
Was he against anyone or he?
That's okay. Think about it. Oh, that's a good question. So you want people to ask about your plan. So let's say, like, is Lincoln more idealistic or logical, right? So how would you translate into that into a question you want people to ask you? So is it good to be idealistic? I don't even know what that means. Okay, so if something is an ideal, like if something is ideal, do you know what that means?
Oh, ideal, yeah, you.
I think your question
It has to be like this.
Huh?
Yeah, good, it has to be like.
Okay, so it's this idea that something is good then, right? So to be idealistic would be to what? Well, no, I mean, everything you do affects somebody, right? Whether it's good or bad. So maybe it's, when you think about something being idealistic, you said yourself that it's like this idea that something is good, right? So if I'm idealistic, I'm working towards good ideas or this better way of doing things. Yeah. Now, it's kind of like this idea that something might be perfect, right? So if you think about like your ideal report card, what would it be? A 4.0, right? So that would be ideal, that would be perfect. Is it good to be idealistic? Yeah, because it gives you a goal to achieve. But she said, is his reconstruction plan more idealistic or more logical, right? So, are you going to please everybody, right? So, is he trying to do that with his plan? Read. Feel free to go back and read
He
it.
wants
That's
a united house.
That's ideal, right? Ideally, he wants a united house. He wants everybody on board. Is he going to get that? Does he think he's going to get that? Does he? Go back to his reconstruction plan. Okay, so where does it say that? And this is just a quote from the second verse, and that's where you got the ideal part, right? Because this sounds idealistic, right? To bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall mourn the battle, right? That's idealistic. But look at the logical part of his plan. What is the logical part of his plan? Oh, okay, so tell me.
Okay, that's number
super lenient
in
stuff when it came to reconstruction, their beliefs were kind of new, and they wanted to do it.
So basically, many of them were
These
okay with
guys,
it,
they wanted
and others.
reconstruction now, they wouldn't make as much of an impact as they could.
Ah,
So
okay.
they thought
So his plan says that only 10% of the people who seceded from the South have to say, you know what, we promise not to do it again. Is that idealistic? No, that's logical because, there you go. So now think about how you might interpret that into a question, because that was a good question. Somebody might ask Lincoln, your plan seems really idealistic. And you could come back and say, actually, it's very logical, because he knows that not everybody in the South is going to be on board with this, but if he can get 10%, he can start to bring them back and everything take quiet. So now start thinking, what are those questions you want people to ask you about how you Alright, so what's the North's opinion on reconstruction? And your characters are the Yankees? Right. So, if you're a Northerner, how are you going to answer that? Right, because people are going to ask you these questions. People are going to ask you these questions, and how are you going to answer that? Right? So if I'm asking you, like, hey, what's the North's opinion on Reconstruction in the South? Well, you will eventually, right? You will. So somebody who's going to know the answer to these questions.
Someone wanted one side wanted more chambers, the other half wanted longer to have a
Well, I'm going over here. Which group are you guys? Or we can be original.
I'll be like, well, I think we shouldn't change it out too much, and like, like, hold up there, pal.
Because basically they're saying Lincoln's plan was okay. How do you feel about that? Because you already know that he's Lincoln too. Right, so is he just gonna follow Lincoln's plan or does he have his own plan? That's a good question.
She's talking about that. She's saying,
Because I'm like,
Why do you wanna answer that one?
how the,
Oh, okay, I was saying, they were
Most of them were okay with it. Some of them were scared.
But they your car job.
Because of the job.
after the student,
Most of them were okay with it, but some of them were
This is
scared
about
because they thought it was
So this is how you are going, like, war's
So
over.
that.
You know what war, things are done, right? So now it's about how are we rebuilding this country? And this is what you're focused on. You're focused on this whole issue of what's going to happen during Reconstruction, right? So what do you, as radical Republicans, want people to ask you so that you can get your information?
how can,
It's the first time I've ever heard it.
how can,
I just remember Hoagie.
So it would be your details, right? So you, one of the questions you might ask would be like, what are the details of your reconstruction plan? Right? And you might say, well, we're gonna do this, this, and this. You might say, we're gonna punish the Southerners. You go, oh, how are you gonna punish the Southerners, right? Those questions, like a big question like, what are the details of your reconstruction plan, can help build on other
I
questions.
mean, I could, but I only got 5 on my.
How do you feel about slaves?
I'm not good with tally.
Okay, so this is good. How do you want to handle the South?
I got
Right.
it.
that would be the one you're doing.
Right, so how do they want to handle the South?
What would you ask the
Why are you here? Get on the You're right on. You're on the right track. How's it going over here?
I tend to try to not talk to white supremacists and black
What is your opinion on black
I'm gonna ask
I'm
one.
mostly
That's a great opinion. That's a great question.
What
is your opinion on black people?
How do you feel about yourself?
As a white supremacist.
Are they good questions?
Why they just don't like them? Versus why they're against uniting.
What are your thoughts here? Reflect Lincoln's plan or being radical Republican? And who are you?
They didn't.
Johnsonian?
How do you feel about
Confederate leader?
videos
Work with with Congress or against them, right? Did you ever own any slaves? So remember, you're a supporter of Johnson, right? So what is Johnson? Huh? He's the president. What political party was it? Go back to your glossary. Go back to your glossary. No, go back to your glossary and look at Johnson.
They weren't ready. One of their
Ah, he was a Democrat. So Lincoln's vice president, Andrew Johnson, was not a Republican like him. He was a Democrat, right? So where were the Democrats largely? In the South, right? So now, after you've read Johnson's stuff and you've gotten to kind of read through him and know his policies, how does that reflect what's going on in the South? Does he actually represent what the Southern Democrats want? Okay, is that a reflection of Lincoln's plan?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
So is he really just carrying on the policies of Lincoln? Okay, so think about the questions you would want people, because remember, Lincoln was immensely popular in the North, not so much in the South. So Johnson should be kind of this figure that ties the North to the South. And ideally, he should be, right? Is he? Okay, so start thinking about the questions you want people to ask you. If a Southerner comes up and asks you questions, right? If a Southerner comes up and asks you questions, what do you want them to ask you to make them feel like, oh, I'm taking care of you? If a free man comes up and asks you questions, what do you want them to ask you to make them think, oh, I'm taking care of you?
I feel like our questions are pretty good.
Huh? Feel like that? There are a couple that were kind of like, do you own any slaves? That's a yes. That's a yes or no. That's a yes or no, right? Maybe what are your what do you think should be done with the newly freed slaves?
Does it say the answer?
I'm crossing my eyes.
You tell me, does it? How are you guys doing? Can't find an answer. What group are you? No, white people in the South. You are the Southerners. So we got unity of the races. How do you feel about the South's loss?
They were happy to have someone there.
So that's a good one, right? And you know that essentially the South lost military zones. And they're under control of the military. That's a good question. You were a Southerner, right? You were a Southerner, and this is your chance to speak your mind. What questions do you want people to ask you? Right? What do you want people to ask you? That's more like a, oh, you know, what could we have done differently? You can't change that, right? We can't go back in the past and change anything. Whatever has happened, has happened. Right? So maybe you could ask something about Reconstruction, right? What is Reconstruction? You know what it is, right?
Grab half of an Oreo.
Words. Yes, what is Reconstruction? So as a Southerner, as an American, what would you want? Would you want an opinion? Not what is it, but maybe what do you want? All right, guys, take another minute to kind of wrap it up. Take another minute to wrap up your questions. Do you need me anything? Did you need me? Then make your way back to your group, please.
About Lincoln Hope.
What was his hope for the Confederate States? You could answer, but that would probably be something similar to like what are his hopes for the country, right? No, because that's like, that's more like if we were asking that today, right? And this is more back then, like, if I come up to you and I'm a Southerner, right, I'm a white Southerner, and I'm like, I got some questions about Lincoln's plan, right? You want to have answers to that, so what are some questions that you want people to ask you, right? So your first question says, are Lincoln's plans more idealistic and logical? Good, right? So if they're logical, and I'm a Southerner, I'm like, okay, well, you say that only 10% of us have to swear on loyalty. What else do you want to ask me about? What is Lincoln's Reconstruction plan going to look like for me? You said we can come back, but now what? So now you're thinking, right? All right, guys, so if you will do me a favor and flip over to the next page. Listen up. Come back. Flip over to the next page. It should say task number 2. And looks like a chart, right? Looks like a chart.
Do we have to answer our own?
Huh?
We have to answer our own.
No, you're not answering your own questions. You're not answering your own questions. here's what's gonna happen. Each group, I want you to take about 30 seconds. Choose a spokesperson in your group. Take about 30 seconds and choose a spokesperson. Somebody who will speak with the voice of your group.
All in favor, say Nora. Nora.
Everybody, everybody's in that group and they all talk. Alex, Mary.
Alright, so do me a favor and raise your hand. The spokesperson, I want you to raise your hand. Raise it high.
Raise your hand, Mr. Henry. Fine.
1, 2, 3, 4. Who's the spokesperson over there?
Him.
Alright, well, spokespeople, congratulations. I have put a moratorium on you. You are not allowed to speak.
Thank God.
Just listen. Just listen. Listen.
That he's me.
Quiet, 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 quiet. How many of you guys have seen that show? It's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah.
Where they can call for a lifeline or ask a friend or something like that.
Yeah.
That spokesperson is now the lifeline. They're now the lifeline for your group. So here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. I am going to choose one person from each group, and that person is going to rotate through the groups. Whatever questions you came up with, whatever interview questions, you're going to give that person that comes over the questions, and they're going to ask the rest of the group, but not the spokesperson. If they get stuck, then you can use that lifeline. You can use that lifeline.
So who does right next question?
Listen up, listen. So, here's what we're going to do. Lame, hold your hand up. Up high. Heba, hold your hand up high. Let's see. Who is the spokesperson over here? Noy? Maheshwari, hold your hand up high. Natalia, hold your hand up high. Lamont, hold your hand up high. And, Bishara, hold your hand up high. You 6 people, stand up. Now, I want you to rotate this way, towards me. Right, so you go that way, just in a circle, and you sit down in the vacated seat. Right, now whoever has the questions that you wanted them to ask, give them to the person that just sat down. Give them to the person that just sat down. Hold on. Remember, the questions that you just worked on in your group that you want that person to ask you, you give them to him. You give them to that person, right? That person, let them take just about 30, maybe 45 seconds to look over your questions and give them back. Just look at the questions and then give them back to the group.
Okay, so she came to our group, so you want us to.
I want every question for her to look over.
She gave us her.
Huh?
No, but that's not a question.
Nope. I just want her to look over them. After they've looked over them, give them back. I'll give you about 10 more seconds.
You should totally get some questions.
No, we got like 5 more minutes of class, not 2 more seconds. Huh? Oh, we do, don't we? I lost track of time. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I lost track of time. That's my fault. Tomorrow when we get, tomorrow's who's who, so we won't be in here.
Yeah, we
right?
will. We will.
Oh, we will, won't we? We will.
I'm not.
Anyway, when we get back in class, we're going to take these same questions. We're going to take these same questions. But whoever sat at your desk, and remember the people that you're with right now, whoever sat at your desk, they are that group. So you're from what group? You're the Johnsonians. He is now sitting with the Lincoln group, and he is going to ask questions that a Johnsonian might want to know from the Lincolns.
I won't
right?
be here, Hammond.
Huh? That's okay. We'll figure it out. Right? Do me a favor, make sure your names are on these. Make sure your names are on these, because for some reason we always get that mixed up. Right? No, yes, I will collect these. I will collect these before you walk out. All right? No, put them in my hand. Put them in my greedy little hand.
Oh, yeah, and then, what about our project?
Your projects, I want them no later than the end of the day tomorrow. Put my desk back in row if you would.
Is this yours?
I got you. Good little thing.
Have a good day, guys. Don't leave until my desks are back in rows, though. And I get your paper in my hand, my greedy little hand.
Do you have any, never mind.
Guys, have a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow. I'll shut it off in just a second.
Hi, Mr. Hammond's teacher. Give him an A.
Is it on? Is the camera on?
No, the camera's still running.
He's a douchebag. He deserves a
He's
kill.
an A. He's a good teacher.
Did you just cut the camera off, Alex?
Are you going to lunch?
Oh, okay.
Bro, we have lunch.
Hey, I'm
right?
going to school tomorrow.
Hey, are you gonna eat that bean? Hey, are you gonna eat that bean?
I'm going to the boys. I'm going to
The one that you did. Okay, then come.
All right. Now shut the camera off.
Yes, Mr. Hammond.
Hold on. Hold